Welcome back to HomeSpot. So, on today's episode, we're going to be getting ready for spring. Now, we're still about a month early here. It's mid-February. It doesn't really start heating up here until about March, mid-March. But we're going to try to stay ahead of the game and just be ready for some outdoor activities. So, behind me, you can actually see our project. Now, these are just some tables that were given to me by my aunt. Structurally, they are very sturdy, so they're very strong, really nothing wrong with them. The finish obviously has some work to be done, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. So those two guys, we're just simply going to sand, strip down, and repaint. These two are like some brass strips. I don't know why that one's painted, but we're going to get that back to all matching. This guy is going to have a little bit more work done. So the bottom will stay generally the same. However, we're going to add a little backrest right about here. And we're going to turn that into a couch, love seat, cushion, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to turn that so people can actually sit on it and it be used. Again, those two will stay about the same. And as far as paint wise, I'm thinking black. Haven't really decided on that yet. So more to come on that later. But for now, let's get to work. So up first, it's time to start disassembling the whole thing. Now, first we start with the legs. The legs are just held together by some wing nuts. Just simply unscrew those and those come right out. And then the base is held to the tabletop by some pocket holes with some Phillips head screws. Just simply take those out and you are good to go. Okay, once we have everything disassembled, it's time to start cleaning them up. So grab some sandpaper. In this case, I did use 100 grit sandpaper, and we don't have to take it completely down to bare wood. We just want to sand it a little bit to where it's nice and even, and we have something for the paint to grab onto. Okay, to clean off the brass parts, I did use some 120 grit sandpaper to take off pretty much just the top caked on layer. Once I got that removed, I did switch over to a 180 grit sandpaper, and that left it nice and smooth. These actually cleaned up very well. Now, moving on to the legs, we do want to remove that little felt pad at the bottom. That little felt pad, since this is going to be an outdoor table, will hold water and just rot out the wood super fast, and we do not want that. Now, I will be replacing that pad with a stainless steel smaller one that will also act as a leveling foot, and more to come on that later. Okay, once all of the sanding is done, it's time to move on to some actual building. So we're going to be building the backrest for this table turned into a chair. Now, I don't have a plan, a rhyme, or reason. I'm just eyeballing it as we go. Now, I don't want a 90-degree angle back there. That's just not going to be comfortable. So I ended up going with a 105-degree angle, which seems to have worked out very well. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it just to see how tall that backrest needs to be. And after every single cut or after every single adjustment, I do go back just to make sure it looks good. And I go from there. Okay, so moving on as to how I'm going to attach the actual sides to the actual frame here. So it needs to be pretty beefy, which is why I'm using these 2x4s. Now I'm going to use these 2x4s to kind of just extend the base of the table out a few inches, and I'm going to attach the sides to these. Okay, and with the base now extended by about 3 inches, you can still see the top of the table overhangs by about an inch or so. So I just do take my circular saw and cut it nice and flush. Now at this point, the sides are still very wide and I don't want them that wide. So again, I just place them on the chair itself and just kind of eyeball it just to see how much material I want to take off. Okay, once I like the sides, it's time just to screw them on. Okay, now for the backrest, I need 7 strips of wood that are 2 inches wide. Now I cut out 8 just in case I messed up or anything like that, which I didn't in this case, but I always tend to cut out 1 extra one just in case. Now I need to figure out a way of mounting these strips to both of the sides. So instead of just butt jointing them or pocket holing them in, I do get a piece of wood, glue it up and attach it to both of the sides, and from there I actually attach the strips to those strips of wood. Okay, so now I take a cutoff that I really had no more use for. This was already in the trash, but I do need some spacers. So I do cut a bunch of 3/4 inch spacers. Now this is gonna help me space out the back strips nice and evenly. Okay, up next, it's time to make sure that the back strips all fit perfectly, and they do fit perfectly well with the spacers that I made. Once I make sure that I like the spacing and everything is good to go, it's time to attach them, and just a simple screw right down the middle. Now at this point, the strips were bending quite a bit at the center there, and I didn't really like that, so I decided to just put one piece of wood that goes all the way from the very bottom slit all the way up to the very top strip, and this actually helped it out tremendously. There is still some bend, but nowhere near as much. Okay, now that I like how everything is fitting and looking, it's time to disassemble everything back again just so we can start sanding this. Now the bottom base is already sanded. I do need to sand all of the new wood that I just added. Also, the new wood that I added has holes everywhere. So time to patch up the holes and sand them down as well. Okay, before we start painting, I do want to cover up all of the brass. Just obviously I don't want to get any paint on them, and it's just time to start painting. Now I did go with a flat black exterior color. Honestly, I was looking through Home Depot and Lowe's just to find those the paint that everyone returns and they have it on super clearance. It's usually like $9, $10, $11, something like that, but in this case they didn't have the color I wanted, so I did have to spend a little bit more and get what I want. Now this paint is not thinned in any way, shape, or form, so it is pretty thick. And with that being said, I did do 2 coats of the black all the way around. Okay, so I did let all of the paint cure for about 2 days or so, and once that did cure, I came back in and started reassembling everything back, putting the base on the tabletops and putting the legs onto the base itself, and they are good to go. Now here you can really see that contrast between the matte black and the gold. Looks really nice. Now reinstalling everything back is pretty simple. Everything is already pre-drilled, so it lines back up perfectly once again. And lastly, it's time to install the leveling feet on every single one of the legs. And pretty simple, just drill a hole and put your leveling foot in. And just like that, everyone, we are done. So just to kind of recap a little bit here, these were benches that were given to me. They were in pretty rough shape. They had just kind of been abandoned and just left there, but we gave them some new life. And overall, I really like it. So the black really contrasts the brass really well. The brass actually cleaned up a lot nicer than I expected it to clean up. Overall, we're gonna get a whole lot of use out of this, especially since we're not even in spring yet. We're barely getting into nice warmer days. So we can definitely count that we will use this a ton. But for now, guys, that is all that I really have for you today. Please drop the channel, like, subscribe. We'll see y'all next time.